Am I doing it, everybody? Am I building a square mountain? A lot of people think I am. They're saying, hey, you're building a square mountain again. This mountain that you're building, it's square. This mountain that you're building has no detail. This mountain that you're building is too green. There's been a lot of comments in regards to that. I've stressed it before that this is just a base construction of the mountain. And that's why it's so green, and that's why there's no additional detail on the mountain. But today, I want to try and add some detail so we can start to visualize what this mountain is going to look like. And I also want to try and break the square, because you're right, maybe it is looking a little bit square. But the reality is that mountain, which is 6 different modules, is sitting on a rectangular table. Like right here, that's 3.5 base plates by 7 base plates. And I wanted that mountain to cover the entire surface. So what I'm going to do is grab that module there. This beast right here, which was actually the first module that I built for this new mountain project, and we're going to rip it apart and we're going to rebuild it. So I'm thinking, well, as suggested in the comment section, they were saying that this is looking too square, so what you should do is have this rock face go diagonal, and it'll sort of break the square look. And then I'll have a low ground here and a diagonal cut of rock there. You know, this is the first one I built, as I mentioned there, and some of the parts aren't as reinforced as I would like them to be, so I sort of want to rebuild it anyway. And then once I add that diagonal cut, I'll also start adding some details so we can start to visualize what it's going to look like. Because a lot of people have been calling me out for building a green mountain, and they're saying that there should be a lot of dark bluish gray mixed in, like specifically on the steep parts, there should be some dark bluish gray. But this is like the base construction. What I was thinking is what I would do is take the copious amount of slopes that I have, and after the base construction is done, well, then I would go through and I add dark bluish gray slopes in here, and I turn this into rocks. And then I add green slopes here, and I turn this into like green grass and vegetation and stuff. And then over here it's rocky, and there's a little burst of rocks there and a little burst of rocks there. But I always do that stuff after the base construction is taken care of, because I don't know where a cabin is going to go, or I don't know where a specific structure is going to go. So if I come in here and I slope it all up, and then later on I want to put a structure there, well, then I got to remove all those slopes. So I always leave that style of stuff for last. But I want to make sure that we can actually visualize what it's going to look like. So today I'm going to be detailing and modifying this first section here so that we can truly give you a visual of what it's going to look like when it is detailed. So first off, let's bust this thing apart so we can bust up that square look. Got to just deconstruct it. So I take off that layer of green plate and green brick. That exposes one of the 16 by 16 Technic panels in there. And then I can start to remove the rock work, which was in front of that 16 by 16 panel, and start to put in some of my new rock panels, which are the corner ones. And I just space those out so that I can do some custom brickwork in the middle there. And you can see that now it's sort of busting up the square. I don't want to like be too aggressive because it's going to take away from the mountain. The point of this is to have a mountain here on that huge section of table there, which is like a square table. I could get aggressive and I could like go right through the center at a 90-degree angle, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do a little bit of a angle there to try and break the square. And then once I get those rock panels put in there and I fill in the sections with brick, then I can start to top it with more dark bluish gray brick, and I can start bridging across onto the 16 by 16 panels with various green plates and bricks. Now the issue is I took out one of those 16 by 16 panels and I can no longer fit it in there. If I wanted to fit it in there, I'd have to like reconstruct this whole thing and tear it all apart, which I don't feel like doing. So I'm sort of cutting a corner there just because I don't feel like rebuilding this entire thing. But I managed to get a little plate in there at the same height so I can start bridging across with more plate and brick, and I can start to fill it in so that we have the mountain construction back. It's always fun messing around with plate and brick when you're building something like this, because of course it's 3 plates to 1 brick, so trying to get the height to match up everywhere can sometimes be rather difficult. A ton of parts goes into this. It is pretty wild, but in the end I think it looks amazing. Even the base construction I think looks pretty good, and believe me, it's nowhere near completion. It's more of like a triangular shape now. It's definitely no longer a square, which is good. Mission accomplished. But there you go, just got to clean up my mess now, and we're ready to move on to the next phase of construction, which of course is details. Now, whenever I build a Lego city or when I take on landscaping projects, I always build in layers. So my base construction, then you start adding details. It's like an ogre. Lego cities have layers. So the first layer that I want to add to this is actually a trail, because there's going to be some sort of hiking trails. And I think now that it's a triangular shape,
that actually leaves a nice trailhead there on the bottom. So I beef up some of the rock work with 2x2 dark bluish gray bricks, and then I lay down a bunch of reddish brown 1x4 plates to create a trail which will sort of meander through there. And then I border those plates with some of the corner plates that I found on the pad wall just to give it a little bit of depth. And I think that's nice. It's a good pop of color. The reddish brown really does look good amongst the green and dark gray. Now there's a bunch of rock work there. I built my rocks using rock panels, which is taboo to some builders, but I like it because it gets you up quick and it doesn't cost as much and you don't have to allocate so many bricks to doing your rocks. But the problem is you got to cover those rock panels with something that looks good. And what looks good is slopes. Here's another layer. Now we're adding a layer of slopes. I am using countless amounts of slopes on this little tiny section of rock. Because keep in mind, this is only one of the panels for this mountain. But I'm using 1x2s, 1x3s, 2x2s, all sorts of different types of slopes. I'm also throwing in some inverted slopes because that's a way that you can get up there and sort of change it up a bit. It's an awful lot of dark bluish gray. I realize that. But that is the first layer. It's all dark bluish gray. I don't have a whole lot of light bluish gray slopes, but I can add some other things that'll add nice pops of color, such as some bamboo, some 1x2s, some of the flower elements, light gray cheese slopes, dark gray cheese slopes, different shades of plates like sand green, dark tan, tan, and just anything that'll sort of make this area look a little bit more natural. I also want to change up some of the rock work there because, like we were saying, it's all green and we want to add a burst of dark bluish gray because that's sort of natural. So I decided to replace some of the green bricks with dark bluish gray, and then I also built it out to give it a little bit of a unique shape, put some colorful bricks underneath and some of the dark bluish gray bricks on top, and then I added some slopes on top of that to help blend it in as well. So now it's not all solid green. We got some brown, we got some green, we got some dark bluish gray, light bluish gray, tan, dark tan, and now it's time to start blending in some of the green work as well. Add some more spackles of color everywhere. There's another layer, adding some of these slopes on the ridges there in the green sections, that being curved slopes, cheese slopes, regular slopes, all sorts of different stuff. And also putting some leaf elements in there and some more bamboo and some more vegetation. And then eventually the little mini sapling trees that I built using parts from the pad wall, that being the antennas and the stems, some of the pre-molded bushes, which are in that dark green color, which I think look really good. And then some smaller trees as well. Now I don't want to use too big of trees because they might start to dwarf this mountain. If I put a massive tree on there that's as tall as the mountain, that's not going to look right. So I've got to make sure that I build to the right scale. So once again, here we have the mountain before I made all these changes. It definitely does look pretty square, and as I mentioned, it is lacking details, that's for sure. And here we go with the changes in a super fast time lapse. This actually took me 3 hours and 20 minutes on a lovely Sunday afternoon. And here's a photo of the final result. Definitely looks a lot better than before and after.
I definitely dig these improvements. I think that looks much, much, much better. Is it done yet? No, because this is only one little section of the mountain, and as I develop the other sections, I'm sure more detail will be added to other sections, such as this one. But either way, we've got some tan and dark green plates there just on the mouth of the trail. The trail is done in reddish brown. 1x4 plates, 1x2 plates. And it's just sort of scattered randomly, and you can see it's surrounded by rock work, which is done with the slopes. And that trail goes up. You can actually see some stump detail, some printed pieces, like they've cut down some trees to create this trail, and it'll connect to the other section of rock right about there. Approximately, it could change. And you can see how I've embedded that trail using some of the corner plates so that the brown doesn't come up over the grass. I think that looks pretty authentic. And then the rock work, just a ridiculous amount of slopes of all different shapes and sizes. Put some saplings, bamboo, cheese slopes, flowers, all that different type of stuff. It's wild to think that those are rock panels under there. You can barely see them. I mean, here you can see it just because I didn't have any studs to work with in the foreground, but where you have more space, you can sort of cover them up. And once again, I like working with those rock panels because it's just so easy to build walls and get your base structure, and then you can just cover it with other added details. I like these little pre-molded trees. I don't know, they're not too bad, right? Then we got some of the little saplings.
and then some of the larger trees as well. You can see what I mean though. If I put a big tree on here, it's not going to look right. It's not going to be the right scale because it's going to tower over the mountain itself. So I've got to make sure that I don't put humongous trees on here. Could I put more trees on? Well, you know me, like my campground, it was absolutely saturated with trees. So will there be more trees on this? I can almost guarantee it. Is there going to be some sort of structure here? Well, I don't know. At least for me, it's going to be easy to remove these details and place a structure there if I do decide to add some sort of structure. And then we've got a little bit of rock work back there, and that will connect to another panel where the rock work will continue. I've embedded this dark tan plate so it matches up with the slopes. You can see these slopes are the same height there. I did that by swapping up a section of the brick with 2 plates so it can be at the same height as the slopes and looks pretty good. So there we go. That is the first detailed section of mountain, which is no longer square, and I'm excited to see it alongside the others. And boy, oh boy, am I ever excited about that. What a difference that makes. A little bit of detail, well, maybe not a little bit of detail, a lot of detail makes all the difference in the world. Look at that, it's the beginning of the mountain. It makes me want to detail the 5 other plates. Like, look at the difference. That's what I'm sort of going for, everybody. That's what I'm excited to present to you. And I hope that provides a nice visual as to what this mountain is actually going to look like. And I'm talking the entire thing. They have the 6 panels there, once again, or I call them panels, but plates. We got 6 more plates there, plus that row of 32 by 32s. And then I have the entire section right here, which will also be mountain, and the entire middle section wrapping around to the winter village right there. Like, I've been talking about these mountains for a while. I've got a big plan in the works, and I just want it to be like a really cool backdrop for the Lego city. And when it's that dense of detail, I think, you know, it looks a lot better, and it will provide a nice backdrop for the Lego city. I'm really excited about it. It makes me want to detail more. And thank you so much for your comments and all that. I do appreciate it. I do take them to heart. And I do want to, you know, make things better than they used to be. I'm always trying to improve as a Lego builder and as a Lego landscaper. And I think that does look a lot better. I love the trail and the additional blast of rocks in the middle there and the addition of the trees and vegetation and slopes and everything as well. So we've got an issue, everybody. In order for me to continue building what I would call the base construction of anything in the Lego city, you need 2x2 bricks. To get that first layer done, you need them, because that's like the mill's foundation. And I, unfortunately, ran out of 2x2 bricks. So that's going to halt production for a while. I did order some immediately, a lot of them. Stay tuned for the unboxing. It's going to be insane. It's the most 2x2 bricks I've ever ordered. It's going to be wild, and it's going to get us like really far. So I went all in on 2x2 bricks order, and once those arrive, I can continue working on the base construction. But in the meantime, there's a lot of other things that I can do, such as tiling off underneath all of these train tracks in the train yard. The gravel road, get working on that. There's a lot of detail that needs to be added to that. I could continue detailing more mountain plates as well. I could work on the zoo. I have the parts for that. So as I wait for these pieces to arrive, I'm going to be able to do other things and work on other things. So I'm going to take the negative of, I'm out of pieces, darn it, I can't continue working on the base construction, which I so badly want to get done, and turn it into a positive and say, okay, well now I can work on adding some details, because the details, they definitely make all the difference in the world. And I know a lot of the time it is hard for viewers, not all of them, but some viewers, it's really hard for them to visualize. I'm sorry if I'm singling you out, but it's really hard to visualize what my vision is and what I want things to look like until I actually commit to doing it. And I think this is sort of like a good visual there. I like that. But yeah, until next time, everybody, thank you so much for coming on by. Please remember to like, subscribe, and stay tuned. Farewell. Have a great day.